Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. I am the Reverend Dana Worsnop, minister of this, sometimes anxious, very well flawed, yet also courageous, kind, and committed community. We gather to keep love at the center of our lives and the way we move in the world. It is so good to see everyone here, no matter how you have gotten yourself into this space. On your feet, on wheels, some combination, on Zoom or YouTube, weary from a great big auction last night, or bright and shiny in your first time here. We are a community of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders, and all are welcome here. We preface our services by acknowledging that our building rests on the unceded ancestral homes of the Chumash peoples. And so we pause to remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. And in this remembering, may we find the courage, the bravery, to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. Three brief announcements. The UU the Vote team has 1,800 letters that are all written and addressed and ready to send to North Carolina. And so they're asking for a little help to add a message of support on each envelope. They're all 1,800 are here, but we've got stickers that simply say, "Our hearts are with North Carolina and we hope you are safe." And we need to get those stickers on there. So they'll be in Berg Hall, and you can check in at the Connecting Center and find out where they are to just help with this effort, please. Thank you so much. Also, the Environmental Action Team meets today in the conference room, which is right behind that screen, which won't be there after the service. And it's on Zoom and in person at 11:30 after church. Also, October is a month with 5 Tuesdays, which means that there will be a 5th Tuesday men's potluck and circle on October 29th this month. There's a potluck from 6 to 7 p.m. and followed by a large sharing circle from 7 to 9. It'll all be in Berg Hall, which is our social hall. And we are grateful that people are keeping our mask-only section mask-only. And just want to point out that if you want to know about what's going on in this church, the very best way is to read our email newsletter. Comes out on Thursdays, UUCV this week, and also reading it all the way through is very helpful. As we gather each week, we create a unique, wildly human community. For we are all of us sacred beings from a diverse cultures. And may we, with both courage and joy, enter this sacred space.
I am Worship Associate Maureen Daley. We invite those who are Zooming or streaming into this service to light a chalice or candle at home as Reverend Dana lights the chalice of our free faith here in our sanctuary. We begin our service with words from Karen G. Johnston. Do not be alone right now. Do not be alone right now. Gather together. Gathering together grows courage in ourselves and in others who see the numbers swelling. It is a small thing, but right now it is an important thing. Great sources of wisdom remind us, just because you cannot stem the tide of all hate, it is still right to do the thing you can do. These things add up. Your one thing and my one thing, his one thing and their one thing and her one thing. Together, it becomes a big thing. Do not be alone right now. Any liberation, all liberation, is collective liberation. My freedom is bound with yours, and yours with mine, inextricably. Let us together cast our lots doing this big thing, bending the moral arc of the universe towards justice. Come, let us worship together.
I am music director Carolyn Bjerke, and I would like to invite you all to rise in body or spirit and join in singing Here We Have Gathered.
My name is Lily Rappaport. I'm the Director of Family Ministry, and I'm going to call up two young gentlemen to help me this morning. Alessandro and Luciano, thank you. Oh, and?
Isaac and Loretta, you're in this too.
Okay. Okay, we can set the box down. And each, in some of the classes, we have something called a wonder box, and we discover something new inside of there each week. So this week, we have something special inside. Today's story is called Bravery Soup, and it's about a young squirrel who's trying to find his courage or find an ingredient of courage. And the story's about how his friends also try to help him find courage. Bravery Soup by Marianne Coca Leffler. Carlin was afraid of everything. He was afraid of bumps in the night, of trying new things, of being alone. He was afraid of his own shadow. "You need a bit of bravery," said his friend Zach, "and I know where you can get it." The next morning, Zach led Carlin to the edge of the woods, and there they saw Big Bear, the bravest animal in the land, and he was stirring a big pot of, looks like soup, right? "So you want some bravery?" asked Big Bear. "Yes," stammered Carlin. "Well, I'm mixing up a batch of bravery soup right here, but I'm missing an important ingredient. Will you get it for me?" asked Big Bear. "Will it make me brave?" asked Carlton. "Most certainly," said Big Bear, "but your journey will not be easy. You must go alone through the forbidden forest to Skulk Mountain. And on the mountain top, you will see a cave. And in the cave, you will find a box. Bring that box to me." Carlin gasped. "Alone? The forest? The cave?" And his knees were shaking. And I'm going to ask you to repeat this, because what Big Bear repeated is, "You are braver than you think." Are braver than you think. Okay. Now, the animals heard that Carlin was going up to the forbidden forest and gathered around him, because they knew what he would need. Okay? "Here is armor to protect you from the wild beasts. Here's a basket full of food. The forest is full of poisonous plants. Here is a raft to cross the raging river. And here is a big stick to fight the fierce monster that lives in the cave." Wild beasts? Poison? Raging river? Fierce monster? Carlin's whole body shuddered. Then he remembered Big Bear's words. Do you remember it? "Then you think." So he heard those words. Slowly, he walked into the thick forest. His friends waited and then grew worried. "It's much too dangerous for little Carlin," they said, and then they decided to go search for him. As Carlin's friends entered the forest, they came across the armor. "Oh, he is hurt." And then they found the basket of food untouched. "Oh my, he is starving." And then they spotted the raft floating at the river's edge. "Oh no, the river has swept him away." But Carlin was not hurt. He realized that he could not walk fast wearing the heavy armor. So he took the armor off. Carlin was not starving. He noticed animals and birds feasting on fruits in the forest. He saw some strawberries, so he dropped his heavy basket and he ate the delicious fruit. Carlin had not been swept away. When he came to the raging river, he found that a tree lay over the water, and so he tossed the raft aside. Carefully, he began to make his way across, taking tiny steps until he reached the other side. "I did it," he cheered. And then Carlin looked up and he saw Skulk Mountain. Carlin trudged on. The mountain was covered with thick bushes and vines, so thick that he broke his stick. So he tossed it aside. And then he spotted giant giant footprints. Carlin had discovered the monster's cave and then entered it. Minutes later, his friends found the broken stick at the mouth of the cave. "Oh no, he's been eaten by the monster!" But Carlin had not been eaten by the monster. He stepped into the cave, and on the ground, he saw the box. Then something moved in the shadows. It was the monster, and the monster growled. "Who is it?" The monster whimpered. "What do you want?" Carlin had cast a long, spooky shadow. Could this scary monster be afraid of me? Yeah. Okay, my name, could this scary monster be afraid of me? So he says, in his deepest, loudest voice, "My name is Carlin. I came for the box." And the monster said, "This box? Here, take it, but please don't hurt me." So Carlin grabbed the box, and he ran from the cave, bumping right into his friends. And he said, "Run, the monster!" And they all raced down the cave, raced down the mountain, over the river and through the forest and back to the edge of the woods. And at last, the tired animals gathered around Big Bear's fire. Carlin carried the precious box. And now is the time. Open the box. So here in the story, Carlin pried open the lid. So would you do that? And tell everybody what's in the box.
Nothing. I was right.
Okay. So the box was empty. "I'm sorry, Big Bear. I didn't get the secret ingredient for bravery." He was very sad. And Big Bear said, smiling, "But you did. The box was always empty." "Do you mean my journey was for nothing?" "Your journey was not for nothing," said Big Bear. "You faced the forest and you faced your fear. It's not what's inside the box that makes bravery. It's what's inside of you." "Well, what about the bravery soup?" asked Carlin. "It's called bravery soup because I only serve it to the brave." And Carlin said, "Oh, I am brave." And he held up his bowl to be served. And so we're going to take this box full of courage. Oh, you want? Oh.
Just so you all see.
And we're going to carry this wonder box back to the art religious exploration sessions. And if you would, in the middle aisle, stand up as you are able, form a bridge of love as we sing the children to the rooms.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our love as you go.
It's so lovely to have the choir and the congregation singing to each other, and we're kind of in the middle of it, and it's just this lovely sound. Thank you all. Each Sunday, this congregation gives away our collection to an organization in the larger community or to funds that help people in our own church. Those who are at home have two ways to give. There's a link posted in the Zoom chat or about to be, or you can text the word assist from your phone to the number on the screen. And those of you here in the sanctuary also can give 2 ways. You can still write a check or cash and put it in the box that's on the wall at the back of the sanctuary, or also you can text to give. Our offering today goes to the UUA's Disaster Relief Fund, which means it will go directly to help our congregations that have been affected by Hurricane Helene in North Carolina and beyond, and especially those in Western North Carolina. The images from this, from the aftermath of the hurricane have just been devastating. And the recovery will be long in coming. And this is a fund that we can pay forward and pay back. It kind of works both ways. We were recipients of funds from it after the Thomas fire. Money that was donated by UUs around the country helped our members clean up and repair damage. And yet my favorite part about this fund is that the UUA actually insists that we don't just use whatever they give us internally, but that we share it with organizations that are also helping in our area that we know best about. And so when we got the disaster relief funds, we also gave money at least a couple of times to the 805 Undocu Fund, which was set up in the aftermath of the fire to help those who are undocumented workers in the county who don't have access to public funds, despite what some people try to tell you. They don't have access to public funds. So by giving to this fund, we are able to support other UUs who have been devastated by this hurricane, and they will be able to distribute some of the money to the people that they know also need help. And so in that way, we help them draw the circle of our embrace wider and wider in their own backyards. Thank you for giving generously, as you always do. We are grateful ever and always for the generosity of this congregation, which weaves a tapestry of love we call community. A dear friend of this congregation, Susan Szymanski, died on Friday, October 4th. Her husband, Chuck, and their son, Andrew, were with her when she passed. Susan brought her voice to our choir and her bright, kind heart to our community. Susan and Chuck met in high school and were married for nearly 60 years. There will be a memorial here at church on November 9th. And as is our wont, as is our practice, becoming our practice, anytime we lose a choir member, the choir sets an empty chair here for them and for their spirit to be with us. And so that is Susan's chair. Thank you. Thank you. In honor and remembrance of Susan Szymanski, we light our memorial candle from the chalice flame, and then we will extinguish the chalice for some moments of silent reflection, and the chalice flame will then be relighted, and both will be extinguished at the end of the service.
Now is the time in the service when we hold up the great joys and sorrows that grace our lives. We place stones in water for both the celebrations and sorrows in our hearts, making ripples that are felt throughout our community. You can submit a joy or sorrow for sharing via a link on the website uuventura.org or in our Thursday email bulletin, UUCV This Week. Those received by 8 o'clock on Saturday night will normally be shared that Sunday. I invite you now to speak into the gathered community or write into the Zoom chat the names of those you wish to celebrate, memorialize, or bring into the embrace of this beloved community. Reverend Dana will now place one final stone in the water for all the joys and sorrows just shared, and those yet unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we be truly grateful for all that is our life.
please remain seated as we sing Ubi Caritas, which translates to where kindness and love abound, God is there. We will sing it 3 times through.
Ubi caritas et amor. Ubi caritas Deus mises. Ubi caritas et amor. Ubi caritas Deus mises. Ubi caritas et amor. Ubi caritas Deus mises.
Our reading this morning is by activist Mickey Scottby Jones. Brave space. Together, we will create brave space. Because there is no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars, and we have all caused wounds. In this space, we seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. We amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. We call to each other to more truth and love. We have the right to start somewhere and continue to grow. We have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. We will not be perfect. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be. But it will be our brave space together, and we will work on it side by side.
I invite you now into a time of meditation. Close your eyes if you wish. Place your feet on the floor if you're comfortable doing so, and breathe. Just breathe. When and how are you brave? What encourages you to your bravest, braver self? A silent meditation. It was first said long ago by some now unknown wise soul that the purpose of the church, and I'd expand that to religious community, but the purpose of the church is to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And I expect what I'm about to say may do a little bit of both. And if you have arrived here somehow with a particularly heavy heart, please take away every single drop of comfort you find here and dwell less on your afflictions if you can. I so love the poem Brave Space by Mickey Scott Bay Jones, for it is so packed with wisdom and insight. And each time I hear it or read it, a different line jumps out at me newly, and I want to savor it all. It was written in 2020, in the first months of the pandemic, though the term brave space has been floating in the zeitgeist now for a few years. The poem begins, "Together we will create brave space because there is no such thing as a safe space." Huh. Our culture gives safety such great significance in our lives and how we order them. What do you mean there's no such thing? Yet, I think it's getting at something significant. When something untoward happens, when something does not go as planned, when, heaven forbid, someone hurts us or someone we love, we are frequently, usually tempted to blame someone or something, or at least to want to find a place to lay blame. Those someones or somethings should have kept us safe. Perhaps they could or would or should have, though it is almost always true. It is also almost always true that shit happens. And whenever I say that aloud, which I've been known to say, either in a pastoral setting or, yes, here from this very pulpit, I hasten to add that that is a theological statement. Indeed, it may be the theological ground from which the rest of my theology rises. Now, I do not suggest that we throw our cares to the wind and become daredevils, take wild risks, or always choose the path of greatest adventure and newness and change. Rather, just becoming aware of the deeper truth that being alive in these squishy, vulnerable bodies is a risk in every moment. It's just reality that we cannot control the world and keep ourselves and those we love safe all of the time. We do our best, and shit happens. Theological statement. And so the poet calls us to create brave space, which may be the closest we can get. And personally, I find it much more useful. Not necessarily comfortable, though useful. The concept of brave space was conceived to, quote, go beyond the traditional safe space ideology, as we are wrestling in our culture with deeper understandings of what it means to be a truly multicultural, pluralistic society. From the Oxford Review's definition, while safe spaces aim to provide refuge from discrimination and harm, brave spaces encourage individuals to engage in courageous conversations, confront biases, and challenge perspectives constructively. It acknowledges that discomfort and growth often go hand in hand. Dang it. And by stepping out of comfort zones, meaningful progress toward inclusivity can be achieved. Just trying to stay safe will mean we never venture out and learn. Carlin was afraid in the story, and yet he was encouraged and to go out into the world. He found it less threatening than he thought he would, and he learned a lot. Hold on to what he learned. Let's hold on to that. Yet the truth is also that if we just put ourselves out there all the time, we'll eventually get burned somehow. And then the temptation to retreat and never venture forth again can take over us. My great hope is that a church like ours, yes, maybe even this church, can lean into the bravery side of things. Let's stir up batches of bravery soup at every single one of our potlucks, okay? Let us strive to become such a brave space. It is far more realistic and useful than thinking that we can be safe, or even trying to be safe all the time. Because, the poem continues, we exist in the real world, which is not always safe. As Unitarian Universalists, we seek the truth and to live in the real world as best we can. Our newly articulated and adopted value of pluralism says, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. If we can do that, in doing that, we lean into creating brave space. Yet also we need to, in this wildly human community, we need to acknowledge that we all carry scars and we all have caused wounds. This is another deep truth about living in these squishy, vulnerable bodies. How many of you can remember how much it hurt to skin your knee when you were a kid? What the? And that's just one kind of scar. We have all been hurt by other people, and we have also all at some time hurt someone else. Those are not usually our proudest moments, and yet it is so. Real world. Hopefully, we have learned to say I'm sorry when we need to, though that can be hard, especially when we are hurting too. And our common woundedness can cause us to be defensive because we want to protect that which was hurt. Yet in a brave space, it also calls us to empathy and responsibility, honesty and kindness. And in a brave space, we also seek to turn down the volume of the outside world. For me, this can be the lures of consumer culture, or the culturally inherent racism, misogyny, homophobia, and more in our systems and institutions, and sometimes inside my very own head. Not my proudest moments, but that is the real world inside here. And it seems that we all would love to turn down the volume of our present divisive politics. And yet, it is not enough to just turn down the volume. We also amplify voices that fight to be heard elsewhere. Another thing about becoming a brave space, being a brave space, is to remember that the people who live on the margins of our culture in whichever way they do, rarely, those folks on the margins rarely and perhaps never feel entirely safe. And for me, as a white, straight, cisgender woman from an affluent, advantaged family, my experience are usually the ones centered in our culture. And there are many ways, though not all, that I actually expect to feel safe. And if I don't, it can feel like there is something terribly, terribly wrong. Yet people of color, LGBTQ folks, people with disabilities and more do not always feel safe and welcome. Just walking around in the world where I usually almost always do. The best that they and we all can do together is to create brave space. And from all the places that I feel safe and sheltered and comfortable, I need the courage to join others in brave space. And from there, we call each other to more truth and love. Our newly articulated and adopted UU statement of values keeps love at the center. Though it has this circling and cycling set of values that call us to more love and truth all the time. Those values are justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interconnectedness, and generosity. And yet, through all of this, none of this means that we're supposed to have this all figured out already. This is new territory for absolutely all of us, and it can be a very rocky path. There are so many new things to learn, and there seems like there are more every single day. And that is a good thing, even though it's not always a comfortable thing. Wow. As a culture, we are still and continuing to grapple with the truths that were first widely expressed in the civil rights movement. That work never finished. It was important and powerful, and I don't think it ever gets fully done. But sometimes we think, oh yeah, that was great. Now we're good, and no. We have evidence over and over again that actually there's still so much to learn and ways to grow. And ours is a particular time that we are called to continue that work that was started more than half a century ago. And it's a huge transition on so many levels. And we've all done some of the work, and none of us have done it all. Yet that also means that we are in different places on the path, and we can't expect ourselves or one another to have it all figured out. And so this is critical. We have the right to start somewhere. We have the right to start where we are and then continue to grow. None of us will ever get it all right, and certainly not the first time. We have to be brave enough to admit that we don't know, and then be curious to learn. If you don't understand new vocabulary, the newest understanding of gender or sexual expression, it's okay. Yet keep your mind and your heart open and try really hard not to get defensive. It's hard. For instance, I am learning not to just go, oh, sorry, when someone tells me that I have used the wrong pronouns. It's usually my first response. Oh, that's right, sorry. Rather, I am trying really hard to say thank you, meaning thanks for letting me know. And then I do my best to get it right the next time, which doesn't always happen. One, I forget the thank yous. In fact, this may just be in my head so far. I'm not certain I've actually ever done this. In my head, it's like, oh, that's right. Thank you so much. I need to know more. Thank you, that's great. So it's an ongoing process. And what Brave Space asks of us is to start where we are and to keep growing. We don't blame yourself or each other too hard, and keep growing. Because we have the responsibility to examine what we think we know. None of us knows everything. And as I have told you before, I am a know-it-all from a family of them. And this is so hard for me sometimes because, oh my God, I think I know so much. Oh, and I want to share it. That's why I'm here. Oh. But my dear friend, the dodecahedron, helps me with this one. There are so many more than two sides to anything in the world. And at my best, I may understand 2 or 3 or 4 of them. And I'm learning to be truly curious about the other 9, 10, 11, or even 23 other sides to any issue. And here are the grace notes that will help carry us into Brave Space. We will not be perfect. Indeed, seeking perfection is the enemy of this work. We will not be perfect, and this space will not be perfect. We never have been, nor is it realistic to expect such. Talk about living in the real world. You are, we are, lovely. Just not perfect. And even more, this space will not always be what we wish it to be. To quote Mick Jagger, you can't always get what you want. But if you try sometimes, you just might find you get what you need. And usually this space can be a version of that, a version of what we need. And then there's even more grace. This will be our brave space together. Kind, direct, fallible, curious, well-intentioned, far from innocent, and still so very, very good. And we will work in it side by side, by side, by side, by side. We are in this together. What a relief. What a gift. Relationship is our bottom line, as I spoke about last week. May we be in relationship bravely, shyly, earnestly, kindly, sometimes crankily, uncomfortably, yet as often as we can, open-heartedly. Together, we have the power to overcome fear. In Bravery Soup, we saw that Carolyn found out that the monster that we think is this horrible monster is as afraid of Carolyn as Carolyn is afraid of the monster. It's fear. Fear is the thing that pulls us back and keeps us futilely trying to stay safe all the time. So what we can do together is encourage each other, literally put courage into one another. Fear is what holds us back the most. So together, let us be brave, sometimes even safe, just not always, and yet doing our best to be kind, courageous, curious, together, side by side by side. Amen. May it be so. I invite you now into a time of prayer. Holy beingness of many names and no name, tender-hearted, yearning for wholeness and love. Spirit of life which dwells within and among and beyond us this day and always. May we keep our hearts open, even through fear, even when they are breaking open. Knowing that we have inside us this invisible but real capacity to be brave together. Let our shared humanity bind us more closely together in love. And from the midst of the Jewish High Holy Days, and as we approach the anniversary of the October 7th attack by Hamas on Israel and an entire year of war that has followed, may we keep peace in our hopes, hearts, and prayers. And may no one more be harmed by another. May there yet be peace. And when we see suffering in the world, when it enters even our own lives, our own hearts, may we find the courage to let it soften us. May it grow us in compassion and with a sense of the possibility of healing. And when our own fears overcome us, or when the worries of the world grow too much with us, may we be encouraged by those around us. May we encourage one another to love, to peace, to growth, to strength, to joy. And may all those who are ill find healing. May those who are in despair find hope. May those who are without shelter find home. And may all those suffering conflict and war throughout the world, may we know peace. Amen, and blessed be.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing, Now Let Us Sing.
Sing to the power of the joy within.
Please join me in reading the words on the screen as we prepare to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. Those we carry into our lives until we are together again.
Okay, so they're already laughing over in Burke Hall. So here is your invitation to community. Those who are in the sanctuary here are invited to coffee, tea, bagels, conversation, and laughter in our community room, Burke Hall, through these two sets of doors. You can drop by the round, under the Round Connecting Center sign to visit with friendly folk who are just waiting there to talk with you. You can put cash or checks in the offering box at the back of the sanctuary. And those joining via Zoom, you can also hang around and visit one another in breakout groups, and we'll have the television there, and some people stop by and talk to them. I leave you with the words of Wayne Arneson, which are by far my most frequently words of benediction. I'll betcha I have done them in 20 years of ministry. I've done them 100 times because I love them, and they are so apt so often. And they are a prayer for you, for me, and for us, and may we keep them well. The Reverend Wayne tells us, take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Go forth in love. Go forth in peace, side by side by side. May it be so.